Good morning, everyone. I request everyone to please put their phones on silent mode. We are going to start the event now.
The world needs less heat and more light. It needs less of the heat of anger, revenge, retaliation, and more of the light of ideas, faith, courage, aspirations, joy, love, and hope.
A very beautiful and shiny morning to one and all present over here. I am Alibha Mishra.
And I am Anvesha Khilar.
We, the students of Psychology Department, the School of Liberal Arts, welcome all of you to the World Suicide Prevention Day.
An estimated 7,03,000 people take their life around the world in a year. For every suicide, there is likely 20 other people making a suicide attempt, and many more have serious thoughts of suicide. Millions of people suffer intense grief and are otherwise profoundly impacted by suicidal behaviors.
Each suicidal death is a public health concern with a profound impact on those around them. By raising awareness, reducing the stigma around suicide, and encouraging well-informed action, we can reduce instances of suicide around the world.
The World Suicide Prevention Day was established in 2003 by the International Association for Suicide Prevention in conjunction with World Health Organization. The 10th of September each year, mental health professionals come forward to focus attention around suicidal ideation and raising awareness among government organizations and the public, giving a singular message that suicide can be prevented.
Creating hope through action is the triennial theme for the World Suicide Prevention Day from 2021 to 2023. This theme is a reminder that there is an alternative to suicide and aims to inspire light and confidence in all of us.
The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light if we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it.
Now, we would take the pleasure to invite Professor Vidya Pujari ma'am to kindly offer the welcome address. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Alibha and Anvesha. It is rightly said, if you want to show me that you really love me, don't say that you would die for me. Instead, stay alive for me. People who are feeling suicidal can often feel like they are a burden to their loved ones, which is not the case. This quote serves as a personal reminder from the loved ones that they would much prefer him or her to stay in their lives than to leave. A very good morning to each one of you present today on the occasion of observing World Suicide Prevention Day. It gives me immense pleasure to see the students gathering over here. I, Vidya Pujari, Assistant Professor, Department of Psychology, School of Liberal Arts, take the privilege to welcome all our guests for the day. First, I would like to welcome Dr. Arpit Parmar, Professor, Department of Psychiatry, AIIMS, Bhubaneswar. He is a practitioner in the area of mental health and is here with us to share his insights into the cause and prevention of suicide. I too had the privilege of working with Dr. Arpit a few months back during the first year MBBS orientation program organized at AIIMS, Bhubaneswar. We welcome you, sir. I'd also like to welcome Father Anthony R. Overy, S.J., Vice Chancellor, Exime University, who is an inspiration to all in the field of higher education. I would also like to welcome Father S. Anthony Raj, S.J., Registrar, Exime University, who is a diligent administrator. I welcome our Dean, School of Liberal Arts, Professor S. Pepin, who has been encouraging and guiding us with all our roles and responsibilities. I also welcome Dr. P.V. Padma, head of the department, Psychology, who has shown relentless efforts towards shaping the department and enriching its vision. I'd also like to welcome the deans and faculty members of all the schools of Exam University. I must welcome the parents and students of Exam University for their participation in the event. I welcome UGSAC members and Zamarax for their participation too. I also welcome the print and electronic media for being present in the event. The Department of Psychology, under the flagship of School of Liberal Arts, has just started taking shape. It is only 6 months old. The Department of Psychology is always driven towards the urge to learn and implement vital psychological dimensions into practice. This is our first ever event organized to generate an appreciation for mental health issues and their concerns. The department is attuned to create more such events to make every section of the society to see mental health issues with great care and sensitivity. Today, we are all assembled here to understand the significance of life, which is precious and should not be mishandled. We, as the Department of Psychology, have taken the initiative to involve all our students at Exam University to open their thoughts and creativity on the burning issue through a poster-making competition. The response to the cause was astounding. The competition opened the door to understand, realize, and create an awareness among the youth. We are looking forward to the announcement of the winners too. I would like to end my speech by quoting what Juliette Lewis once said. The bravest thing I ever did was continuing my life when I wanted to die. I once again welcome you all to this consciously crafted event of the day. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, madam, for this beautiful address.
Now, I would like to take the privilege to invite our respected Father Vice Chancellor, Exam University, Anthony R. Uvri SJ, to present the token of respect to our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Arpit Parmar Sir. Father, please.
Thank you so much, Father. Now, we would like to take the pleasure of inviting the head of our psychology department, Professor P.V. Padma Madam, to brief us all about the Suicide Prevention Day. Ma'am, please.
Prevent suicide. Be someone's lifeline. We are all born with the ability to take our lives. Each year, 1 million of people make the choice to kill themselves for many reasons. For many people who feel suicidal, there seems to be no other way. But it is also true that suicide is often considered a permanent solution for a temporary problem. When we are depressed, we tend to see things through a very narrow perspective of the present moment. They say They don't want to end their life, but they just want to stop the pain. In the last 3 decades, the suicide rates has increased substantially. Several studies reveal that suicidal behaviors are much more prevalent than what is officially reported. Every year, more than 1 lakh people commit suicide in our country. A total of 1,64,033 suicides were reported in the country during the year 2021, showing an increase of 7.2% in comparison with 22. The table can show you like how the increasing trend of the suicide. So suicide rate is increasing. It has increased in the past 5 years. It has increased from 9.9% to 12%, which is an alarming number. And in the map you can see the country, the states which are marked in yellow comes under the higher cover, and the green in the second layer of number of suicides. And it is very unfortunate that Odisha comes under the second layer, which is in green in color. So the number of suicides in Odisha is also increasing. So the causes for the suicides are mainly found to be family problems and illness. So it is both mental illness and the terminal illness. And it is seen in this slide that more men commit suicide than the women. And with regard to the age, 18 to 30 years were extremely high earlier years, but this year it is 30 to 45 has also increased. So the productive population of the country, which is between the age of 18 to 45, are under high risk. So on 50% of the population comprises of this age group, and it is our responsibility to prevent them. So coming to Odisha, so there are so many now suicides reported in the newspapers daily, and with regard to Odisha, like it is there is a 2% increase from the last year to this year. There is an increase by 2%. And Odisha suicides contribute 3% to the entire country's number of suicides. Total number of suicides in India was 1,64,033, while the suicides in Odisha was 5,651, which contributes 3% to the national level, national percentage. Also, it is also an increasing trend in Odisha. So from 2016 onwards, in 2016 it was 3,884, and 2017 it was 4,171, and now it is 5,651, and this is also in an increasing trend, which is alarming, and it is high time we take some measures as an exam university to prevent suicide. So the causes of death in Odisha is mainly it is considered as mainly due to family problems, and the other reasons like illness come secondary. And one positive aspect is that like there are 0% farmer suicides in Odisha, that needs to be appreciated. And about suicide, it is not a problem of an individual. It is a social problem. It is not just one person because of an examination or because of a relationship breakup or any family issue is committing suicide. There is an impact of the society on the person which drives him to suicide, and because of his suicide, the ripple effect of the suicide affects the entire family, extended family, and the society also. So it cannot be considered as it is an individual problem. It is a social problem. And it is not just one single cause which makes a person suicidal. It is a multi-dimensional problem which says like because of one reason no person commits suicide. If a student commits suicide because of an exam failure, it doesn't mean that he or she is doing it for only one reason. There may be other reasons behind that which has propel the suicide thought to the surface, and the last straw is the failure in examination. And when a person says like I'm feeling suicidal, it is not just I'm telling. Many of us think it is a threat. No, it is a cry for help. A person who is suicidal goes through immense psychological pain that the pain cannot be explained or understood by another person. So he doesn't know how to convey that. He conveys in one single feeling, like, single thought, I feel suicidal, or I feel like ending it all. So there are many myths and facts about suicide. So people say, like, people who talk about suicide rarely commit it. This is how we deal the people who talk about suicide. But actually it is not so. People who talk about suicide has the high risk of committing suicide, attempting suicide. And suicidal people are absolutely intent to die. So it is not that they want to die, they are intended to die. No, they are vulnerable and they are ambivalent. They are caught between two things: a wish to live and an urge to die. I want to live, I don't want to end my life, but I don't have a choice other than dying. So it is between the wish to live and an urge to die. And suicide happens without warning? No, it is not so. People give warning signals before attempting suicide. They say, like, it need not be I'm going to commit suicide. It may say, like, I wish tomorrow doesn't happen, or I wish, like, I'm not awake tomorrow, or some kind of a signals they give. So I don't find any purpose in living. So some kind of a warning signal is given by the suicidal. And improvement after a crisis means that suicide risk is over. Many of us think, like, my friend spoke about suicide and I counseled him, I supported them, and I advised him, and he's out of it now. It is not so, right? A person who is suicidal needs a therapy, needs an intervention for a lengthier period, and he needs our support for till the time he gets over that. And not all suicides can be prevented. Yes, each and every suicide can be prevented, but one thing I would say is only a human connection can prevent a suicide, nothing else. Once a person is suicidal, he is always suicidal. No, he can get rid of his suicidal thoughts and ideation. Yes, and here we are. I am ending my talk with this, and let us join hands together in preventing suicide and do something to make a transformation in the society. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for briefing us about the concerned topic. Let me take the honor of inviting Father Vice Chancellor Exime University, Anthony R. Uvri SJ, for the inaugural address of the event. Father, please.
Respected Chief Guest, Professor Pepin for Registrar, Professor Padma, and all the faculty colleagues and the staff and my dear students. Good morning to each and every one of you. In fact, today is a very fitting day, appropriate day for all of us to discuss about when we celebrate the World Prevention of Suicide Day. It's better to have a meeting like this to create more awareness among the youngsters. When Professor Padma came and asked me that we are planning to celebrate the World Prevention Suicidal Day, I said, go ahead. We need to create more awareness. I'm all for it. Let's go and have this seminar or workshop. Let me put it, so the Professor Padma has given us the data about the suicide, what is happening in India and all over the world. It's eye opener for many of us. In a country like India, in a year, more than 1 lakh suicide is happening. It's very alarming, big number. And the last 3 to 4 years, it has been continuously increasing. The number seems to be increasing, which is once again a matter of concern for all of us. And more so, it's the majority of the suicidal death is from men, not from women. Of course, women are there, but the majority are from men. Now, why this suicide first place? What is it leading to suicide? Or what are the major causes of this suicide? In order to give an answer to these questions, I will put it positively. The world is not the end. The world is full of opportunities. Think that way. The world is full of opportunities. If you think that way, you can never ever think of having a suicidal tendency. One incident or one matter or one issue is not the end of the world. That's why I keep saying the world is filled with full of opportunities. Explore, explore. Suppose you are having a problem in this university or this classroom or this with a particular gentleman or woman, that is not the end of the world. Move forward. If not this, the next one. Look for an opportunity. Right? Therefore, when you understand the world is filled with opportunities, you will never ever think of this tendency of having suicidal. Right? Now, there are causes, there are reasons why people think, but they think this is the ultimate. Without this, I have no other way. The best solution for all these things, one has to understand. I keep insisting in my talks very often, let me be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Can we take a pledge on this day, all of us? Let me be part of a solution, not part of a problem. If you take that pledge, you can never ever think of committing suicide. Problems will come and go. Problems will come and go. And that has to be solved. Therefore, I want all of us to be part of the solution. If you think I am part of the solution, you will overcome every problems. Just like that. Now, who is going to be the part of the problem? If I am part of the problem, I will create problem. I will think on the problem. I will make the problem. I will aggravate the problem. You see? That is once again comes down, boils down to the attitude. Negativity. Negativity. Right? If my mind is filled with full of negativity, then I become part of the problems. I create problem, I make problem, I give problems. If my mind is positive, what will happen? I will look to resolve the problems. I will look for a solution to solve the problems. My mind becomes positive. I radiate the positivity. Now, the best way is to get out of this tendency of suicidal is have the social network, regular social network, social connection, talk to people, talk to friends, talk to family members. The issues that I go through, the stress that I go through, the problems that I go through or I face or encounter every day, let it go. Let it go. Right? If you are going to carry the problem on my head, on my heart, or in my heart, then problem is getting rooted in my heart and mind. And the problem remains within me. Problem remains within me. Once the problem is getting rooted in me, then my mind is reacting only the negative problems, negativity. I can't appreciate, I can't see anything good outside me. You see? Can you think outside me? That means outside my biological system, my body. Outside me, things are, very positive. People are good, all others are good. When you think in that line, your mind becomes so positive, your heart becomes so pure. Right? Your heart becomes so pure. Then you look at good in many other people. Even there is a problem outside, you will see good in that problem because you are a person of solution. You are a person of solution. You need to resolve the problems. You need to resolve the issues efficiently and effectively. You see? Therefore, my dear friends, today, and also the statistics that Madam has presented, the majority of the cases are between the age group of 15 to 30 only. 45. Okay. 18 to 45, majority of the suicidal cases. Still, if you go down, it is 15 to 30 only. The major chunk of suicidal attempt. That means the young, bright minds, the dynamic minds. When we say young, bright, dynamic, energetic minds, you should be more positive, energetic. You should be more active. You should be more social. You should be more connected to people. But when we miss out these things, I become lonely. I feel I have no other way in my life except committing suicide. Therefore, you make an attempt there. Come on, the world is full of opportunity. Again, I repeat. The world is full of opportunity. Let's be positive. Let's be positive. And radiate this vibration of positivity across. Right? And At the end, my humble advice and suggestion to all the young students is, let's take a pledge. Let me be positive. Let me be positive. When I am positive, so many solutions will follow automatically. When I am positive, always your mind will look for solution, if at all there are problems. If at all there are problems, your mind will always look for solution. Therefore, I say, I am part of a solution. I am not part of a problem. Okay? So with these few words, I thank the organizers today, because it's very, very important to create such awareness among the young minds. And when you people go back to the schools or the departments, or when you meet your friends, spread this awareness. Spread this awareness. The world is full of opportunities, filled with opportunities. And we are the future of the country. You are the future leaders. You need to shape and groom and mold your mind and heart. You are not here to get information, that is knowledge only. This is the time that you are not only seeking the information. In the information, you cut IN in the beginning. Information. IN you remove. What is that? Formation. We are here for formation. To form oneself. To mold oneself. To shape oneself. To be ready for the future. To take up the challenges in the future. There cannot be a day without problems. There cannot be a life without ups and downs. Right? Every day we face some challenges. I put it challenges, not problems. Don't think a problem as a problem. Take the problem as a challenge. Take any problem as a challenge and resolve it. So we face so many challenges every day. But there are people who are very bright, young, energetic, dynamic, overcome just like that. Face all these challenges. Live with it. Live with it. Right? Therefore, let us take a pledge that I am going to be part of a solution, not part of a problem. And the world is full of opportunity. I will always look for opportunities outside. I will always look for opportunities outside me. And I will be positive in all my undertakings. Okay? With these few words, I wish each and every one of you all the very best for this workshop and the seminar. And I am sure we will have a very fruitful and purposeful and meaningful interaction with one another. Thank you very much. May God bless you.
Thank you so much, Father, for your words of wisdom. Now, I would like to take the opportunity of inviting Dean Professor S. Pepin Sir to introduce our chief guest of the event. Sir, please.
Respected Father Vice Chancellor, respected Father Registrar, and the esteemed guest of the occasion, Dr. Ajit Parmar, Professor Padma, my dear colleagues in the School of Liberal Arts, and my fellow deans and colleagues in other schools, and my dear students, young students. I have the privilege of introducing the chief guest, Dr. Ajit Parmar, But before that, I would like to take a couple of minutes to share my thoughts on the day. I think Father Vice Chancellor has very clearly set the tone for the event. Look life positively. Look for the opportunities outside, and be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So my thoughts go to the word right to life. I think many of us, we think that, oh, it is my life, so I can decide what to do with my life. Who are you to tell me whether I should live or whether I should die? So I have been reflecting on this event. So since morning, during my morning meditation, this thought crossed my mind. So I would like to share what I have written here. We have not earned the right to life. None of us has paid any price to earn the life that you and I have. It is a gift, my dear young friends. Life is born out of an act of love between our parents. So let us not forget that. Therefore, the essence of love is sacrifice and not selfishness. It is selfishness that leads to suicidal tendencies or even to commit suicide. But on the contrary, sacrifice leads to love and life. Therefore, the best way to prevent suicide is to celebrate love and life, and to add what Father VC said, to look for opportunities and be part of the solution. So with these few words, I take the opportunity to introduce Dr. Arpit Parmar. In fact, when we were planning this event, I contacted one of my friends who is a doctor in All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Bhubaneswar, to help us, who is the right person to grace the occasion. Then he said, why don't you talk to the HOD, head of the department, Dr. Biswaranjan Mishra. So then I spoke to him. I think today also they have a function in the hospital, right? Then he said, Professor Pepin, if I am not able to come, I will make sure I will send somebody else. And therefore, my dear friends, we are extremely, extremely happy to have Dr. Arpit Parmar. Before I say a few words about him, shall we give a big round of applause to Dr. And he was not gracious enough to tell us more about him. This is what he sent to our email. Of course, I didn't want to get his whole biodata here. Dr. Parmar did his MBBS and MD Psychiatry at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. And he has also done DM, I think that's a after the post-graduation, on addiction psychiatry, again at AIIMS, Delhi. Currently, he is working as an assistant professor of psychiatry at AIIMS in Bhubaneswar. He has got more than 65 research articles in indexed journals and 2 book chapters on national guideline. Awards and honors, he has been very stingy, I would say. He has not elaborated many, but there are many. Number 1 is World Psychiatric Association Young Psychiatrist Fellowship, which he got in 2020 and 2017. Please, if you are clapping, clap loudly. Yeah. Thank you. The second one is American Society of Addiction Medicine Ruth Fox Scholarship in the year 2019. Maybe another round of applause for him. Yeah, thank you. The third one is World Association of Social Psychiatry Early Career Fellowship, which we got in the year 2021. Please. Then, of course, the last one that he has mentioned is World Federation of Societies for Biological Psychiatry Young Investigator Award in 2021. One more round of applause, please. Dr. Parmar, we are extremely happy to have. I know you look very young, but that's for you are the right person to talk to our young friends here. That does not mean that you don't have to talk to us. We also need your advice and guidance. With these few words, and once again on behalf of our Vice Chancellor, our Registrar, and the entire XIM family, we would like to invite you. And can I hand it over to you, the anchor, next? Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to request our chief guest of the event, Dr. Arpit Parmar, sir, to kindly grace the gathering. Sir, please.
Okay. Am I audible without the mic? Is it fine if I speak without the mic? I am not very comfortable with mic and all. Am I audible at the back side? Everyone? Okay. So,
Backbenchers will always say we are audible.
okay. Then probably I'll have to go there as well in between. Okay. So, okay. If possible, yes, sir. Huh? I think I'll have this. No issues. Hello. Now is it fine?
Yeah.
Okay. So, before I start my talk, let me thank Father Anthony and all the organizers for inviting me for this particular event. When I was contacted for this event, I was actually quite happy. The reason behind this is something which we usually don't talk about. Right? Suicide is something which we don't talk about at all. There is an elephant in the room, but no one wants to address that elephant. So, before starting my talk, let us have a big round of applause for your organizers who actually thought of having this interaction. And we'll see in my presentation how it is the job of everyone to talk about suicide and not only the psychiatrist. We are probably the last persons at the hierarchy who should be worried about suicide. It is everyone, all of us, we should be worried about suicide. And why so? We'll be talking about that. My job has been made quite easy by Professor Padma and Father by giving us some data. So many of the things you might think that they are repetitive. But sorry for that because, right, I have already made some slides and I cannot change them at this moment. The one reason I didn't send so much of detail was this only. I am really socially awkward. I can't see people clapping for me and all. So, so that sorry for that. But yeah. So before starting, let me ask you one question. There must be around 100, 120 people here. Around. How many of you do not know any person in your friends, in your neighborhood, among your colleagues who has died of suicide or attempted suicide? How many of you have never kind of heard of in your colleagues, in your family, in your neighbors, in your friends? How many of you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, around 10, 12 people, right? So almost 90% of you probably know someone or have been with someone who has probably died of suicide. And hence, I am not going to talk about how to take care of your mental health and blah blah blah, right? We'll have another mental health day next month, and probably we can talk about that, how to take care of your mental health during that time. Suicide is much more than mental health. It is not just about mental health, right? We'll see about that. It is not that people who are quote unquote mad, we don't use that term nowadays, but lay people use, right? Only they try suicide. That is not the case. Not every person who is trying suicide, attempting suicide, they have some sort of mental illness. No, that is not the case, right? And not all who are suffering from mental illness, they try suicide or die of suicide. So, right, there are certain things which we need to be little bit clear about. So suicide is much more than the mental health or mental health issue, right? So let us start. Let me give you another example. You guys must be aware there was a case into 2020 around June. You must have read in the newspaper, there was a doctor, a psychiatrist, a trainee who died of suicide. He jumped from the 10th floor balcony of his hostel. He was suffering from depression, and he had discharged after the treatment. He was no longer suffering from depression. He was probably the brightest mind we had seen. He was writing blogs also. You must have read his blog in the Medium. Many of you might have read that blog. And there he had talked about his struggles. Despite everything, he had everything. He was AIMS, one of the brightest students. He was doing psychiatry. He was good at psychiatry also. And yet, at one fine day, he attempted and he died of it. He had thought about it multiple times, and that was the reason why he was admitted. Right? He was my junior, and he died from the same hostel where I was staying. So, we know people in our, I'm giving this example not to say that we are psychiatrists. We see patients who are suffering from suicidal ideations day in, day out. But we also know friends, colleagues, neighbors who have actually tried suicide or have died of suicide, right? And hence, not just as a psychiatrist, but as a friend also, as a neighbor also, there comes my role. And I am going to talk about that in my lecture. What is my role? How actually can I prevent suicide? The good thing about it, if you have prevented suicide, you have saved a life. The bad thing about it is that you will never know that you have saved a life, right? Because you have prevented an event, you don't know, but you might have saved a life. And we will be talking about that in this. So this has already been said about that. This is about raising an awareness among the policymakers and the lay public. Okay. So it is more about how to focus our attention on the prevention aspects of suicide. So it is not just aimed at Indian government or the state governments. It's much more than that. The day is much more than saying governments that probably you should do this, you should do that, you should have some policy, you should start doing this for suicide prevention, or doctors. It is for all of us. Everyone sitting in this room, The teachers, the students, the administrators, everyone has a role. So, the theme, if you see the theme, it is about creating hope through action. And what does that exactly mean? It is giving a hope that there is an alternative to suicide. There is an alternative that you can think of, and that is kind of aimed at inspiring confidence in all of us for people probably who are suffering from suicidal ideations, who are thinking about dying of suicide, to tell us that yes, there is a hope, there is something which can be done, right? So this figure comes again and again. At least two people have already told you about this, that there are 7 lakh people in the world who died of suicide last year. This is 1 year data. And behind these numbers, there is a person. Every number is a person. We just talk about numbers, but they are not numbers. They are people. They are persons, just like you and me, right? And they also have families. So this is not just about one person dying of suicide. It is about the entire family also. So there are 7 lakh people who died of suicide, but there are 7 lakh families who have probably lost someone in their family, and they are also probably suffering, right? So we need to think more than just quoting a number. Another alarming thing is that 1 in 3 suicide deaths, they actually happen in India. So if we have to kind of reduce the suicide burden across the world, we need to focus on India, because 1 in 3 suicides are from India, right? Important thing is, suicide is the #1 cause of death in the age group in which you are right now, or probably I am just there. So if by the age of 39 or 40 you survive, right, there is a very less chance of you, there is a less chance of you dying from other causes. Suicide is actually the biggest cause, or the major cause of suicide in this particular age group, right? So this is something we need to keep in mind, that this is the highest risk age group. Okay, there is another alarming data. So by the time we started and will finish at around 12:30, there will be at least 2 students who would be dying of suicide in India. At least 2 students. And this is relatively old data. It might be 4. Right? This is relatively old data. So by the time we end, there will be 2 people, 2 students who would be ending their lives in India. So this is just to show the magnitude of the problem we are dealing with. And hence, only psychiatrists cannot do anything. Only government cannot do anything. Only health ministry cannot do anything. Again, it is not just about people dying of suicide. There are at least 20 more people who are trying or attempting suicide. And attempting suicide is one of the major risk factors of dying of suicide in future. So if you can identify people who have attempted suicide and focus on them, it is likely that you might save a life, right? So this is something really important. Okay, these numbers have already been shared before. This data comes from the National Crimes Records Bureau. I don't know why it is still under the Crimes Department of India. Suicide is a public health issue. Anyway, so this is the data taken by, or given by the police. So this might be a huge underestimate. Still, there are at least 1,64,000 lakh people who died of suicide. At least. Whatever data we have suggests that this might be kind of underestimation by around 50%. So there might be 2.5 lakhs. We never know because we don't have that good data. But there are at least 1,64,000 people confirmed who have died of suicide, right? So another important aspect is that these numbers are raising. From 1990 to 2016-17, there was almost 40% rise in suicide rates. 40% rise, which means if you see 1,64,000, probably 40% would be another, I don't know, 80,000 more, maybe 70, 80,000 more, right? So this is the scale of the problem. Again, there are some figures which have been shown previously also, but I would like to highlight here is, again, this is the data given by the police. So this is not a very good data that yes, it was a family problem, so he tried suicide or died of suicide. It is usually not like that. It is a very minimalistic kind of an explanation. People die of suicide due to multiple reasons, right? But this is important to remember that there are multiple factors. It is not just that someone has mental illness, that's why they died of suicide. No, that is not the case. One of the major thing in our mind is someone is, oh, he's so weak, that's why he died of suicide, that's why he tried suicide, right? He is morally weak, he doesn't have a strong character. That is not the case. Suicidal ideations or attempts can affect anyone and everyone. It has nothing to do with your strong morality or strong character or whatever you can say. It has nothing to do with that, right? So if you see the problems, it is associated with family problems, illnesses, substance use, psychiatric illnesses, stressors, unemployment, right? Farmer suicide, why are they happening? It has nothing to do with the mental illnesses, right? Student suicides after the exam failure, does it have anything to do probably with the mental illnesses? No, right? So there are multiple factors which can increase the risk for suicide. Again, if you see the professions of people who died of suicide, if you see, it is not just about people who are unemployed, even professionals are dying of suicide, housewives. So it can affect any profession. Students, there is almost, I guess, 8% students. 8% students. So the rates of suicide in students is also high. Again, male, female. It is not that only males die of suicide or females die of suicide. Everyone is at risk. Everyone is at risk, right? Maybe there might be some differences age-wise or the age group-wise, but at the end of it, everyone is getting affected. And that is why we need to remember this. Again, it is not just about people. We have that thing in mind that we are so well educated, so there is a less likelihood of dying of suicide. People who are more educated, they would not try something like that. People who are less educated, it is not like that. Data shows that even for people who are very well educated, they can attempt suicide, they can die of suicide. So just to give you an overview of that, there is at least 1,65,000 deaths in India last year due to suicide. That means there are at least 450 deaths due to suicide per day. There are 18 deaths by suicide per hour, and there would be 1 death by suicide every 190 seconds. This is about just India, and maybe 3-4 times more if we talk about the world. So the question comes, what can we do to prevent suicide? Again, as I have mentioned, that it is not just job of one person or one government, it is job of everyone. So it is probably the job of nation also to provide the policies, maybe the helplines, maybe better schemes for employment or whatever, right? So it is a job of probably all the ministries. Ministries for women empowerment, ministry for finance, everyone, for defense, right? Then comes the community. What do you mean by community? We are not just talking about community like a district or a society, but this is happening, right? Your college is one such community. Your college also has a lot to do, right? And when I am saying your college, I am talking about probably all the colleges in India, right? They need to take care of the mental health of their students, probably take care of right, people who already have suicide related issues, providing them the help which is needed, right? Some stress reduction training, maybe lifestyle related training, whatever, right? Ragging, bullying, that is something was quite common few years back. I am not very sure how much is common in India nowadays, but it used to be, and there has been reported cases of suicide after the ragging. So community also has a role to play. And finally, as an individual, when we are talking about it as an individual, we are talking about as a friend, as a colleague, as a teacher, as an administrator, or as a neighbor, as a family member, as a parent, as a child. We have a role to play in the suicide prevention. So these are some of the things which community level efforts can actually be done or are being done. Say for example, we talked about that financial issues, unemployment is a major risk in some groups of people for suicide. So microfinancing for people who are actually in need of that, it has helped. If you see the example of, I don't know, but in South India, there was one study which suggests that just a simple kind of an intervention by the government, that the exams, the rates after exams, the results was high, suicide rates because of exam failure and all, because students have to wait for 1 more year for the next exam. So what was done, that the next exam will be taken in 2 or 3 months. Just a small change in the kind of rule and the suicide rates actually came down, right? So a small intervention, not a mental health intervention, but it actually impacted the suicide rates. From other countries, I guess some Latin American countries, they actually started providing funds to people, to poor people who had no money to even eat, and it actually improved their suicide rates a lot at the country level. A very small intervention, providing them an amount of money every month, right? So again, limit the availability of drugs, substances, awareness on mental illness, which probably we are doing right now, and encourage the help seeking behavior. Why this is important, we'll talk about later on. Training of all teachers, administrators. We all as graduates, we should be aware of certain things about suicide related aspects also. How to actually talk to someone who is probably not going through a very good phase, probably who is suffering from suicidal ideations, or is having some psychosocial crisis, some death in the family, failure in the exam. How would you go and approach the other person? Right? Just saying that no, you need to be positive enough, it's just a failure, might not help. right? We may need to do much more than that, right? Peer-to-peer support network is something which is really important, and that's why I am again pressing on this particular thing, that you actually have a role to play. WHO says there is something known as gatekeeper training. Gatekeeper training is about that students themselves, for example, if you are providing it for students, students themselves work as volunteers, right? So if someone is suffering from some crisis or something, that volunteer would be called, he would be talking about that, he would be screening for suicide risk, provide some psychosocial support during that point of time. If required, he would provide a referral or some helpline, support through the helpline, or maybe referral to a psychiatrist. So that is the gatekeeper training. That is something which is really effective, even as per the studies. Now, the question is, what can I do, right? How can I decrease the risk of suicide in someone I know? So yes, gatekeeper training programs, they are even freely available, 1-2 hours of training in kind of identifying what are the warning signs of suicide. I will be talking about that. What are the warning signs of suicide? How to talk about suicide to someone, how to intervene, what to say. And something which is not usually talked about is what not to say, right? What not to say is something really important, or probably more important in our scenario than what to say, right? So that is gatekeeper training program. Psychological first aid. Psychological first aid is about right, someone who is the breakups, say for example, are quite common in this age group, right? Someone is going through the bad breakup. How to go talk to them, how to kind of provide them some psychosocial support at that point of time, some social support, right? How to identify their needs, how to help them ventilate their feelings. That is a psychological first aid. So you all are aware of physical first aid, right? चोट लगेगी तो वो बैंडेड लगा देंगे तुरंत. Band-aid is not the treatment at that point of time, but just a primary support till अगर major help की ज़रूरत है वो जब आ जाएगी, right? So just like that, psychological first aid is about just providing a support for minor issues. Your support is enough. Maybe if there are major issues, you might have to refer them, right? So support each other. Even helplines can sometimes help. Okay. This is something really important because I have seen many of my cases, and they would come back with relapses of mental illnesses, or even they would die of suicide. Why? Because the community members, we as a community give them suggestion that you do not need psychiatric medications. This is something everyone says to everyone, right? That no, you should not take the medication. Psychiatric medications are addictive. You will be addicted. You would never be able to leave it. You don't know about the illness of that person. Please never say that to anyone who is taking psychiatric medications. If you are concerned, maybe tell them that probably you need to see your psychiatrist, right? That would be a better thing to say than saying that stop your medications, right? Do not challenge any person who is expressing suicidal ideation. Do not challenge them that no, this is wrong, right? Don't say that. Right, this is not a big situation. Don't say that. You don't have to challenge their thoughts at that point of time. Do not stigmatize people who have mental illnesses, who are from a sexual minority, gender minority, right? High risk population, because these are high risk population. They already have some vulnerabilities. They are at a higher risk of suicide, and stigmatization means that probably they will go underground. They won't be able to tell about their issues to anyone, and hence they would be probably at a higher risk if there is a lot of stigma going around. So try to decrease the stigma about these issues around you. Again, if in future you will be having children You need to start preparing them from the very young age. That see, you need to stop comparing your child. The first thing child sees is their comparison between शर्मा जी का बेटा, है ना, उसके तो इतने सारे मार्क्स आए हैं, तुम्हारे क्यों नहीं आए, है ना. So that is one thing which every parent can do, is stop comparing your child, right? Start preparing them for the failures as well. We do talk about it, है ना. रैंक आ गया तो क्या करोगे, IIT में जाओगे, एम्स में जाओगे, बट वी डोंट टॉक अबाउट फेल हो गए तो क्या करना है. वी नेवर टॉक अबाउट दैट, बट दैट इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी एंड वी नीड टू स्टार्ट प्रिपेयरिंग आवर चाइल्ड also for failures. So teach them some life skills also, and keeping connection with people. Nowadays the only connection we have with people is through our phones, right? Most of the time we spend on our mobiles. We do not socialize that much in person. We do chats almost throughout the day, but social connection is much more than that, right? So keeping connected with people is something really important. Okay. So this is something which everyone should understand, that there are some warning signs of suicide. How do you know that the other person might be thinking about suicide or might try suicide, right? So there are certain warning signs. The simplest ones, people who already are talking about wanting to die, or they are talking about some guilt or shame, or they are talking about I am being the burden on my family, some sentences like that. If someone is saying this, you should take that sentence or those people seriously, and maybe you need to talk more about it, right? Feelings, right? Feeling hopeless. Hopeless is है ना, कुछ बचा नहीं है, आगे कुछ नहीं होने वाला. Worthless. So those kind of feelings, extremely sad. People are crying again and again. Unbearable emotional pain. So these are the signs which may suggest feelings, which may suggest that possibly there might be there is a possibility of suicide attempt. Some behavioral change. Someone who is actually researching how to die, right? Then there are people you might have seen, they start withdrawing from people, they would not interact with their friends. So once you see such kinds of change in the behavior, increasing substance use, alcohol थोड़ा बढ़ रहा है आजकल, है ना, और drugs वगैरह लेने लगे हैं, या mood swings हो रहे हैं, anger outburst is quite common. Suddenly you see a change in behavior, someone is getting angry more than his or her usual self, then it might also be a sign that maybe there might be something more, and you might have to ask about it. And how to react when there is a warning sign. The other person might expect you to react when they are telling you about their mental health issues. So if there is an immediate danger, please call for help. Anyone who is expressing suicidal ideations and you think there is an imminent risk, right? Someone who has already kind of checked the net, है ना, चीज़ें ला के रखी हुई है, प्लान बना के रखा हुआ है, maybe you might have to call for help. Help matlab maybe your counselor, you might have to take them to a hospital, you might have to talk to their family members, but right, take it as an emergency. Do not ever leave that person alone. If you have something more to do, maybe you can ask some common friend to go there, be there with them, but preferably I would suggest you be there, you provide the support, right? Because someone who has opened up to you might not be very well comfortable with the other person. So if you have identified that there is a risk, never ever leave that person alone, and obviously remove all means of suicide. Say for example they have collected medications or something, a rope or anything, maybe try to remove all those means. Again, if you find that someone has already consumed medication, obviously you will talk to the emergency, take them to the hospital. Always ask directly about suicidal ideation to anyone who you think might be having those ideas, right? Idhar udhar घुमा फिरा के नहीं, है ना? You can directly ask. I'll give you the example that मरने के ख्याल तो नहीं आ रहे. No one is like, है ना? There is a very common myth in the community that if I talk about suicide with someone, probably they might see it as an encouragement of suicide, right? I have not seen anyone in my life कि जिसको हमने पूछा हो अच्छा आपको suicide के ख्याल तो नहीं आते और they were like no I hadn't thought about it but thank you for giving me suggestions. No, that does not happen. That does not happen ever, right? On the other hand, if you ask someone about suicidal ideations and they are kind of suffering from suicidal ideations, they will feel the relief that yes, definitely, right, that there is someone who wants to talk about it, because that is a stigmatized part. No one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about it. And now you are talking about it, right? You are talking about it normally. And that gives a bit of confidence to open about the issue of suicide to someone who is already suffering, right? So always ask directly, are you suicidal? Are you thinking of trying suicide, right? Have you tried attempting? Have you made a plan? Ask directly, right? Do not fear, be afraid that it might be seen as a bad sign. No, definitely not, right? Again, seek help from the family, friends if required, and do not ever underestimate the threat of life, threat of suicide. If someone is saying that they are feeling suicidal, it definitely means they are feeling suicidal, right? Do not take it lightly. If you intervene at that point of time, you might save a life, right? But if you don't intervene, you don't take it very seriously, it is likely that that person might not open up with any other person, because now his cry for help is not being taken very seriously by other people. Someone whom he trusted, he shared about his suicidal ideations, and he is not being trusted, right? And do not ever be judgmental. This is something which we do quite commonly. यार तेरे पास तो सब कुछ है, क्यों ऐसे सब सोच रहा है, तेरे घर वाले हैं, है ना, ये तो बिल्कुल बुरी चीज़ है, ऐसे नहीं सोचना चाहिए तुम्हें. Never ever say such things, right? Try to be empathetic. Do not be judgmental at all while you are talking to someone who is feeling suicidal. How not to react to the warning signs. This is something again very important. Do not ignore it. I have already talked about it. Do not act shocked or embarrassed, right? Do not act shocked. You might need to have more details about it. If you are shocked or embarrassed about it, you might not get the details or information which you probably want to have. Do not start challenging, debating or bargaining. Don't give harmful advice. If you don't if you can't give some useful advice, don't give harmful advice like stop taking your medications or something like that. Do not do that at all. Again, there are certain rules like never ever promise privacy. When it is about suicidality, never ever talk about privacy, right? Because you might have to involve the family members, you might have to ask your counselor to maybe intervene. Maybe you might have to take your friend to emergency or to a psychiatrist. Never ever say that whatever you are going to tell me would be private. No, that would not be the case in suicidal patients. For other mental health issues, maybe yes, there will be a secrecy, right? If someone is sharing about their breakup issues or whatever, or mental health issues. But whenever there is suicide risk, there is no privacy, right? And never leave them alone. Language considerations, right? We always talk about, oh, he committed suicide, oh, he committed suicide. Never use committed suicide. Committed means, why people use committed with suicide? 4-5 years back, till 4-5 years back, it was a crime in India. Suicide is not a crime anymore. It is decriminalized, right? So stop using term, he committed suicide. No, he died of suicide just like any other cause. He died of suicide, whatever. He died due to suicide but not committed suicide, right? Stop using successful suicide. It is not a successful suicide. It is not a failed attempt, right? So stop using such terms. Never tell that, oh, it's just a cry for help. No, it is much more than that. Suicidal ideations is much more than that. So always use suicide attempt or non-fatal attempt or died of suicide. So there is a 3-step intervention which is important for everyone to know. First thing is show that you care about that person, right? Tell them exactly that, yes, I am concerned right now about you, however, whatever you are feeling, I am concerned about you. I care for you, right? Tell them directly. Ask the question directly. Are you thinking about suicide? And third thing is get help. Tell them that you are not alone. Let me get a help for you. Let me ask the counselor to talk to you. Let us go to a psychiatrist. Let us go to a psychologist, whatever. Let us talk to your parents about it, right? So get help. So with this, the major portion of my presentation or talk is over. Some of these things have already been talked about, some myths and facts of suicide. So I'll just brush through it. One is, already I talked about talking about suicide or asking someone if they feel suicidal will preempt them to attempt or commit suicide, and it can be interpreted as encouragement. No, that is a very wrong kind of a myth going on. Actually, people contemplating suicide are actually seeking for help. They are ambivalent, right? That great Hamlet quote, everyone knows about it, right? To be or not to be, right? So that is that. So no, they are seeking for help, intervention, and they are not going to feel bad about you asking about suicide. People take their own life, are always impulsive. No, this is not the case. Almost always there would be some warning signs before someone tries suicide. There will always be some warning signs, like they have started withdrawing from your group, they have increased their alcohol use, they have talked about that my life is a burden, I am a burden on my family. Start taking those warning signs seriously. Young people who talk about suicide never attempt. Again, it's a very common myth. What studies has shown that people have kind of 3 or 4 attempts before they die of suicide. So start taking even attempts very seriously. They have survived, that gives you an opportunity to intervene, and not that they don't want to die. It is not like that. So again, the only effective intervention for suicide comes from a psychiatrist. No, you don't have to be a psychiatrist to provide effective intervention. Everyone can provide intervention. You might be a friend, a teacher, a colleague, a neighbor, anyone, a parent, a child. You can be a counselor or whatever. You can provide suicide prevention support. All people with thoughts of suicide are depressed or mentally ill. I have already talked about it, and I cannot emphasize this more than what I have already done. That there would be people, yes, there would be people who are also suffering from mental illnesses, but that doesn't mean that all of people who have suicidal ideations, they have some mental illnesses. No, anyone can have suicidal ideations in general population. We recently in one of our studies, we found that almost 10-15% of the students have suicidal ideations. Almost 10 to 15% of students who are not having any mental illnesses. So yes, not all people with suicidal thoughts are mentally ill. Children do not attempt suicide. That is something we have seen suicides of heard about 6-7-year-old child who tried suicide, attempted suicide, and died of suicide. In majority of the cases, it is a copycat suicide. Anyone heard the term copycat suicide? Huh? There is something known as a Werther effect in psychiatry. Werther effect is someone influential, a celebrity dies of suicide, and there is a lot of coverage in the media about it, and the people, the fans, they attempt suicide in the same way. This has been seen many times with many of the celebrities' death, right? So copycat suicide is something, and that's why we always talk about media's responsibility in the suicide prevention as well. There is an entire guideline of WHO for reporting suicide, that you don't have to kind of give the photos, details of actual way the person has died of suicide. Do not write that, but blatantly all the media will always talk about, oh, this person died of suicide, he had jumped from this thing. They will give a very nice photo, they will talk about how their family are suffering. If you see the WHO guideline, this should not be done, this should not be ever done. This actually kind of triggers people who are actually suffering from suicidal ideation, and they might attempt, right? So people who want to die of suicide always find a way. Again, this is a big myth. They actually are ambivalent about dying of suicide, and hence they are cries of hell. They are actually contemplating. They are worried about stigma, that what if I tell about my issues to someone else? How would they judge me, right? And that is why they are not able to talk about it. You talk about it yourself, you ask them, they would actually feel quite relieved that yes, someone is understanding my issues. There is another myth that if a person attempts suicide and survives, they will never make a further attempt. No, I have already talked about it. Almost 40% of people have a past history of suicidal attempts. So if someone has suicidal attempts history, maybe they are at a higher risk. You need to give more focus attention to those people. Suicide deaths or deaths happen without warning. I have already told that almost always there would be some warning signs. Do look out for the warning signs. Once someone is suicidal, they will always be suicidal. This is a very common myth, and we talk about those people like they are suicidal people. No, that is not the case. People would be suicidal for some time when there is a intense issues are going on, some crisis going on, and if they can tide over those crises, it is likely that they would be better maybe for the rest of their lives, or even it might happen again, but it is a very temporary thing. So providing support at that point of time might actually help them. So just to be clear, some facts talking about suicide will not cause it. Almost all who die by suicide actually do talk about it to at least one other person, and this is backed by data, that people who have actually died of suicide, they had talked about their attempting suicide or they wanting to attempt suicide to at least to one person, and that is probably a missed opportunity and a life lost. There is almost always warning signs. Almost always there would be some warning signs, and we must pay attention every time. Suicide can be prevented, and anyone can actually intervene and prevent the suicide. So to end my session, I'll ask every one of us to read what is written there aloud. Can we? Let us read it once. Everyone together. We can prevent suicide. One more time. We can prevent suicide. Right? So thank you, and probably that's the beginning. Right? Start looking out for people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. These moments are truly welcome when we get some share of fondness and wisdom from our guest of honor, whose words can lead us far for tall destinations and bona fide realization of moments.
I feel privileged to request our esteemed Father Registrar Exim University, S. Antony Raj SJ, to kindly come on the stage and articulate about the Exim's commitment to build hope. Father, please.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Father Uvari, esteemed Speaker of the Day, Dr. Arpit Parmar, respected Dean, School of Liberal Arts, Professor S. Pepin, respected Chief Finance Officer, Professor Father Arakyadas, respected deans, faculty colleagues, especially from the Department of Psychology, the organizers of this event, Professor Padma, Professor Vidya, Professor Arti, dear Student Activity Council, and especially the Student Wellness Coordinator, Sakshi. First of all, my gratitude and my congratulations for allowing the academic community of Exim University to celebrate this World Suicide Prevention Day. Now, the topic that is given to me, very carefully articulated by Professor Padma yesterday, was, Father, you have to speak about our commitment to build hope, Exim's commitment to build hope. And therefore, I will just dwell on our present commitment and what as academic community we can do, right? These are the only two things that I am going to talk. Now, Exim University, you must have heard, especially the first years who are here, I see a lot of first years of UG, is anchored on the values of inclusion and compassion. Because our Jesuit pedagogy is about personal care. Institutional care is what you get in a prison or in a hospital. But we are about cura personalis, personal care. Based on that pedagogy, we have named for ourselves the values of inclusion and compassion. And I'm sure you have already realized that the PG section of our university in this campus, we were one of the first campuses to come up with a student committee called People Respecting Equality, Sexualities, and Mental Health, PRESM. And for the UG, we have a student who is a wellness coordinator. This is to our credit. So we do care about issues of mental health. And I know for sure how Sakshi can just walk into my office and come up with, Father, this is a concern that I have about this particular student, this particular group. And we are, we mean business when we say that we are about personal care. And therefore, in this context, we have gathered in large number to talk about something that is probably a taboo, a stigmatized topic, even though, as the group realized, gathered in this seminar hall, that only possibly 10% maybe did not have someone who did not attempt or complete suicide. And therefore, XIM's commitment to build hope is built within this very DNA, right? And when we talk about building hope, hope to me is something like empathy that is already there, right? Each one of us is a survivor from the moment of our conception in our mother's womb. We are survivors. We gather as survivors today. And possibly there is someone here who has that suicidal ideation, possibly someone who attempted even non-suicidal self-injury, right? Because we do see that, as mentors, as counselors, we have come across. And therefore, this is something that is self-generated, the hope. And I don't need to elaborate on hope and resilience, especially, living as we are during post-syndemic time of COVID. But how can this hope be nurtured? That is where I want to dwell. How does this academic community called XIM nurture this hope? For one thing, if it is a self-generated one, self-motivated one, we also know that hope engenders hope. That is where the gatekeepers, the peers come into the picture. That we pay close attention to the other, especially someone who is in need of help. Because we do know that we all have just only one life. We are human beings, not cats. Cats have 9 lives, that's what they say. And this one life, it is a given, and therefore we have no right to take it, as Professor Pepin rightly put it. And therefore it is up to me to nurture this one life that I have, this one life my peer has. So coming back to what can be done, how do we nurture this hope? Something that is very, very close to my heart. Those of you who have heard me in my classes will recognize this. We all have something called body clock. Possibly you know about the circadian rhythm. The one thing that we realize, especially in a campus life, especially during emerging adulthood, the age that you are in, is sleep deprivation. Right? I'm sure you can vibe with this. Because we do see that there is a mortality risk with comorbid insomnia or induced insomnia. So, coming to the age group that you are in, how do we nurture this hope through action when we celebrate this day? How does one fall asleep and stay asleep? And even though the figures there, regarding the suicide rates and all differ, insomnia is more with the women. And I see a lot of women here in this seminar hall. Insomnia coupled with sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, because sedentary life, you're not doing a lot of physical work, lack of a proper timetable, consistent bedtime and wake-up time. Basically, lack of listening to the body as a teacher. When we talk about self-formation, the first teacher we have is our own bodies, the biofeedback. Why? Why am I not able to sleep? Can I not take that internet Sabbath switch off everything, and go to sleep. The proper sleep time. So, as I come to the end of what I wanted to say, of all the analysis that we have done so far, multiple factors, multiple interventions, still, when we think of that one person who died because of a suicide, because we know that every death confuses us, and especially a death by suicide of a loved one just numbs us. And therefore, to recognize the fact of this, that each one of us sitting here is a mystery, though we may have to analyze and say what could be the cause, because every death, as I said, confuses us, and especially death by suicide totally numbs us. To recognize the fact that each one of us continues to be a mystery, that each one of us continues to be a miracle. If we can recognize it in our own selves and in each other, possibly we will create hope through those actions, first of all in the self and in others. God bless us all.
Father, I request you to stay here for some time to kindly acknowledge the award winners.
Now the time has arrived to announce the results of the posted the winners. Father, please.
Okay. There have been 5 groups who have been awarded. May I request group number 16 to please stand up if you are here. Devi Prasad Parida, Vineet Kumar Das, Mayank Kumar Saini.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You are Devi. Devjyoti Das also can join. Which one is this? This one? No, this one ours. That one was ours. Okay.
The judges are also here.
The second group. Yeah.
The second group is group 17, Gurnur Gulati, Rashi Hoda, Neha Mishra. Please come. Please come forward. Please come forward fast. Which is their poster?
Group number 17 is not here, then on that side. Group number 17 is not here.
Okay. Next is group number 15, Samparna Patnaik, Priya Saswati Jana, Namrata Satpati. Please stand with your group. Group number 3, Biman Chaudhary, Amitav Mishra, Shreya Singh. And last, group number 1, Arpita Das, Deep Gagan Turki, Jayjeet Das.
We thank all the participants for their active participation, and we are informing that you will receive your prizes and certificates later on. Thank you.
You can take your respective seats. Please take your respective seats. Thank you so much.
You are all supposed to keep your phones on silent mode. Forgotten that. Father told you just now. So can you continue? Oh, these are the posters.
This is the poster done by group number 1.
This one is the poster done by group number 2. And this is done by the group number 3. This one, the group number 4. Last but not the least, the group number 5. So we're displaying all the posters made by all the winners and the participants who took a step forward to spread awareness on the theme Creating Hope Through Action. Yeah, so that's the thing. Genuine poetry can communicate before it is understood. As quoted by Lawrence, poetry is the eternal graffiti written in the heart of everyone. So I take the pleasure of welcoming Shrija Shaha to give vent to the feelings of life and hope by reciting a self-composed poem. Shrija, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Shrija Shaha, and I am here to recite a self-composed poem called The Youth. The youth. I've realized we don't love sincerely. We don't talk the way we want to, and we don't choose the things that we want to choose. We reflect the bits of reality chucked our way so easily just to protect the safe bubble that we've created, which apparently helps us live better. It's almost as if we're blind to the white spaces in between the metaphors of poems and stories. We aren't rebels, we don't make our own rules, but we don't follow the old ones either. And we don't like the choices that people make for us. But like a carefully carved statue, we don't speak at all. It's as if we're stuck in the endless loop of life where love and habits mean the same. And every vinyl record gets stuck in the same exact place. We barely know anything about happiness, just the monogrammed idea of it. We confuse living with memories, and therefore we stop trying. We let slip that self-love is a blank canvas, and our healing is the art that we do on it. That the wrong stroke of the wrong color could ruin it. But if our painting is ever ruined, we should wipe our tears away and still our trembling fingers. With shaky breaths, pick up our paintbrushes and colors and start again. Only this time, paint it a little different. Paint it stronger, clearer, and more exquisite. Paint it in brighter tones for ourselves to erase the places where we could go wrong at. Paint it for ourselves and not some exhibition, so that when it's completed, it's a masterpiece, the best work you've ever done. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrija, for this wonderful and inspiring poem. All the best for your future endeavors.
Now, please put your hands together for our next performer, Ashwasti Raut, who is going to compose a self-written poem on the theme Silent Tears. Ashwasti, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ashwasti Raut, and I'm here to recite a self-composed poem called Silent Tears. Each day, as evening start to set, the ache build in my chest. I know I must go to bed and try to get some rest. I hug my tear-stained pillow close when no one is around, and cry for the one I loved and lost, and scream without a sound. Others see me in the day and think I'm doing well. But every day as evening sets, I enter my own hell. Time hasn't healed my pain at all or quieted my fears. So every night alone in bed, I shed the silent tears. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwasti, for this beautiful and soulful poem. We wish you all the best for all your future endeavors. Being silent, we remain the same. Being curious, we grow and flourish. So now we welcome all the questions from the audience side that they might be having and longing to ask to our guests on this special occasion.
Good morning. I'm Arikta Samal and I'm from BA Psychology Department. I have a question. What is the role of a parent if they come to know that the child has suicidal tendencies?
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. In some of, I guess in one of my slide, I did talk about that. Everyone has a role. parents' role when they come to know that the child has suicidal ideations. First and foremost, be supportive to your child, right? Be supportive. Do not scold them. Do not say that no, you have everything. Why such thoughts, right? Rather than, yes, I can understand that you are going through a bad time. Let us do what we can do. Be there, support them, try to empathize with their situation, try to see how how frequent those ideations are there, and if there is a risk, maybe go talk to a psychiatrist, a clinical psychologist, right? If any red flag is there, like I already talked about that there is attempt, there are plans, there are ideas of some hopelessness in the child. If those kinds of things are there, maybe go straight to the psychologist or a psychiatrist, whoever is available, who is in your vicinity. Just don't look for the best psychiatrist or a best psychologist. Once you get those warning signs, once you come to know that your child is having some suicidal ideations, the best person is the psychiatrist, who is probably the nearest to you, right? So go to them and let them assess that what exactly is the issue, how severe is the issue, and what next should be done. Your job as a parent is to be supportive, be understanding, not be judgmental, not giving a moral science lecture at that point of time. Just be there with them. Just don't let them be alone, right? That is what I can say.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Anyone? Mike.
Sir, how do we know if the suicidal thoughts are genuine or if they're doing it for seeking attention?
Every suicidal ideation is genuine, right? There is no ideation which is for seeking attention, right? So always remember, if someone is saying that they are having suicidal ideations, it is a genuine suicidal ideations, right? If you start questioning if it is genuine or not, probably the person will not open up again, and you might miss an opportunity to save a life. So even if you have all the doubts, no, it is probably a genuine ideation, and your job is to provide some support. If you think that there is a risk, maybe refer to your counselor, maybe send them to somewhere for treatment, right?
Is suicide a result of impulsiveness?
Suicide a result of impulse? Again, it might be one of the a reason which might have led to suicide, but it cannot only be, we cannot say that it is the impulsiveness which led to suicide, right? Suicide as a problem, it is multifactorial. There will be n number of reasons which has caused suicide. Some might be biological, right? Biological means some genetic factors, right? Family history of suicide, then there is a risk of suicide. There would be some social factors, there would be some psychological factors, their personality traits under which your impulsiveness or things like those would come up. So it is a kind of a combination of multiple factors in various domains, including biological, social, psychological. So yes, impulsiveness can play a role, but in most suicidal attempts, suicide attempt is not the impulsive one. They have actually thought about it, they have actually planned about it. Very rarely you will see that it was a very impulsive attempt, especially in conjunction with alcohol use or drug use. It actually kind of removes that brake on your inhibition. That's why there might be an impulsiveness, but in most of the cases you will find that there is some planning going on, there are some things going on for a long period of time.
Sir, I am Shubhangi Das, the General Secretary of UG Student Activity Council. Sir, like you mentioned about the guidelines that are provided to media for not disclosing someone's name, according to Mental Health Care Act 2017 in consonance with WHO, it also provides the same guidelines. But sir, do we feel that whether media is maybe trying to get other students, the entire nation aware about the fact that maybe this has happened, alongside with that the entire there's a lot of debate that is going on about decriminalization, about awareness of mental health, whether that is a boon or bane to that?
So, we have to understand that awareness is about spreading awareness in a right way, not in a way that can be harmful, right? We are not asking media to stop reporting suicides. No, that is not the case. But in order to report suicides, you have to follow certain guidelines, like do not name that person, like do not give the details, the dramatic details of gory details of the way they have attempted suicide or died of suicide. Do not give the photographs of do not give videos of grieving families, those kinds of things. That actually might be counterproductive. It doesn't lead to awareness. It might be counterproductive. It might actually lead to someone who is struggling. They might get a bit of kind of a confidence to try, and it happens, especially when a celebrity dies. We have seen it's a research backed thing, that whenever a celebrity dies and there is a lot of media reporting, there would be an increase in the deaths due to suicide in the community. The same way, which is known as the copycat suicide or the Werther effect, right? So that is the case. So we are not asking media to not report it. We are asking media to report it responsibly. There is a difference, right? Yeah.
on some social medias?
That's, I don't know. That's probably beyond my expertise. There may be n number of reasons. We cannot say that this would be the thing. We might have to kind of, maybe it's their way of saying people that I needed help. Maybe I'm not very sure. This is not something which has been looked into specifically, so I would not be able to give the exact answer for that. But it again, it will have multiple reasons. One thing which I can think of is that yes, they want to let people know that this is going on with my life. Probably you need to talk about it. Probably you need to ask me about it. Probably something like that, that this has been going on, right? So that is what I can think of. But again, this is not something, an evidence-based thing which I am telling you. So don't quote me on that.
Do we have any more questions?
There is one question.
रहने दे
So at an individual level, we can always talk about it in a very normal way, right? Especially we do kind of come across the reports of suicide in media, and we do talk about it at home. ये तो मर गया, है ना? But we do not, है ना, go beyond that in our families, right? That what could be the way out, right? What went wrong probably with this people, what can we do, right? So at an individual level, we can start having that healthy conversation around suicide in our families. But as a community, probably it's the government's job to have some kind of policy for awareness generation on the suicide. If you are, you might not be aware, but India as of now doesn't have a separate suicide prevention policy. We don't have a policy, so we don't have that kind of guidance how to go about it, right? So that is the thing. So we need to do awareness generation at multiple levels, right? At national levels, at school level, college level, right? Wherever there are issues, wherever there are higher risks of suicide, in those institutions there is a need for awareness generation, right? And the ways would be different. The way awareness generation can be done in a school cannot be done the same way in the college, right? You need to take care of the differences in the population, psychology, their understanding, etc. So probably we need to come out with proper or better solutions how to reach to everyone in the general population. The other way is definitely about the media reporting, right? That goes to every family. Everyone reads that. Whenever there is a suicide, everyone reads about it, everyone talks about it, right? So a responsible journalism, if you are not aware, in one of the guideline is to provide the helpline number with every article of suicide, right? So that gives a message that yes, there is a help available, right? So there is another way to kind of provide awareness or reach to people whom we cannot reach directly.
Thank you so much everyone for your active participation, and thank you sir for your patient listening and enlightening answers.
A person who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way is a true leader. We have been fortunate to have experienced leadership of our wellness coordinator, Sakshi Jain. Thank you and your entire team for the guidance and support throughout the event. I request Sakshi to please come on the stage and express her views on the concerned topic. Dee, please.
Thank you, Anvesha, for inviting me to share my thoughts. So good afternoon, everyone present over here. Respected Father Vice Chancellor, XIM University, Antony R. Uveri, SJ. Respected Father Registrar, S. Antony Raj, SJ, XIM University. Our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Arpit Parmar. Respected Chief Finance Officer, Father Arokya Das. Respected Deans of all schools, respected faculties, my colleagues and the juniors. I, Sakshi Jain, the Wellness Coordinator, would like to thank each and everyone who joined with us today to know that what impact this day poses on each and everyone's life. World Suicide Prevention Day was established in the year 2003. This theme is the reminder that there is an alternative to suicide and aims to inspire confidence and light in all of us. I, as Wellness Coordinator, is feeling proud to be the part of this theme and organize this inspiring event to add meaning to our life. UGSAC is extremely honored that we got a chance to collaborate with School of Liberal Arts and bring this event and importance in everyone's life. UGSAC is always been active to organize and promote awareness events as well as entertaining events. Shuvangi Das, our General Secretary, Swadhin Kumar Sahu, our Treasurer of UGSAC, Shubham Sai Satpathy, Treasurer of School of Commerce, have always been the greatest advocates of mental health and have helped through and through despite the exam season. Adding to this, I would like to thank the student of Liberal Arts who organized this event so smoothly under the guidance of Padma ma'am, Vidya ma'am and Aarti ma'am. A big thanks to them for raising awareness about suicide prevention. Adding to this, the Department of Psychology provides support and commitment to the students or staff who wants help. This is the stepping stone towards creating hope. Thank you so much, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you, Dee, for your sincere delivery of concern on this rising issue of nation as well as of the globe. Last but not the least, we would like to invite Professor Aarti Sangwan ma'am to convey the vote of thanks to everyone. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Alibha and Anvesha. A very warm afternoon to everyone. Social scientists have found consistently that the greater experience of happiness is highly associated with the feeling of gratitude. So as today I stand here, my heart is filled with the feeling of gratitude towards everyone who has made this event an experience exhilarating light and hope, something that our world needs the most. I would first of all like to thank Dr. Arpit Parmar, the chief guest of the day and the keynote addresser, for making himself available for this very relevant cause. Just as the anchor of the event said, doctors wield the power to touch lives in the most influential way. Till very recently, it had always been about being physically healthy. But fortunately, the discipline of psychology has helped realize the impact of state of mental health on the quality of life. Dr. Arpit, being in the Department of Psychiatry in a renowned institute like AIIMS, Bhubaneswar, is contributing significantly to elevate the psychological well-being of the people. We are more than glad to have had you today as our chief guest, sir. Thank you. I would like to thank our revered Vice Chancellor, Father Anthony R. Overy, for his inspirational leadership, only because of whom events like these can materialize and boost the morale of our students to be more than just the academic scholars. So we are grateful for your ever-encouraging support, Father. My heartfelt thanks also goes to respected Registrar Father Anthony R. Raj for being the guiding light always. Today, your words of wisdom on realizing the value of life and cultivating the art of nurturing hope has given us insight into how to combat challenges of life and come out stronger. So thank you, Father. We are also grateful to the Chief Finance Officer, Father Arokya Das, for making the event possible. The School of Liberal Arts stands today on its feet, and not just stands, it stands tall because of the able mentorship of our Dean, Dr. Pepin, whose continued motivational direction has given us the opportunity to think big and be our best. So I extend my heartfelt thanks to you, sir, for being there for us and guiding us so well. I'm also grateful to all the deans of respective schools who came today to be here with us and be our source of support. Also, we are grateful to all the judges of poster designing competition who took out time and provided us with the best of evaluation. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to all the faculty members of all the schools who have joined us today. Heartiest congratulations to each and every participant in the poster designing competition, to those who won, and to also those who made sincere effort to take part in it and put to display their creativity and intellect by sharing their ideas in the form of poster. Congratulations to all the participants and the winners once again. UGSAC, thank you. This is a team which literally handheld our budding psychologists in their very first event that they are organizing today. Special mention to Shivangi Das, Sakshi Jain, and Shubham for being there with us as our students to guide them throughout and coordinate the entire event. This vote of thanks would be incomplete without appreciating the effort that our dear students of psychology have put in by working extra hours to tread extra miles towards making this event a success. A great presentation of teamwork, my dear students. Keep it up. Also, not to forget that this teamwork has been led by a very warm, intelligent, and encouraging person at the helm of responsibility, our head of department, Professor Padma, and a genuine believer of team spirit, my dear colleague, Professor Vidya. So thank you to both of them as well. The coverage of the show has been possible because of support from the IT team and Zemirex, so thank you so much for your help. Sasmita ma'am, if you're here, thank you for literally running between places to arrange for all the help that we requested you to lend. Also, we are grateful to Bigneraj sir and his team of staff members who not only gave access to this beautiful seminar hall, but also helped us throughout the event. Last but not the least, what could be possible without the blessings of Almighty, our dear Lord? We are grateful to each and every opportunity that God has given us all to live and serve and cherish the beautiful gift of life that He has given us. Thank you. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Aarti ma'am, for conveying the vote of thanks.
We would like to request the panel to stay with us for some time for the refreshment.